Welcome to the 13th installment of ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. I'm your host, Tiff Wells. With me today for the first half of Talk Story is one of the two golf coaches here at UH. He's entering year number 23 as the head coach for the Rainbow Warriors, Coach Ronn Miyashiro. Coach, welcome to Talk Story.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. Now, first off, what or whom got you into the game of golf?
My grandparents, actually. My grandfather on my mom's side. My mom's side of the family actually played golf. And he kind of got me into it. First lessons, from him. And then from there, that was at probably age 5. And then from there, I went to some private stuff. Started junior golf when I was about 6, early 7 years old, and never stopped since then.
Going to the links with the grandparents, are those some of your most fondest memories of growing up with golf?
Definitely. It was something, back then, obviously parents were full-time. My dad's in insurance, my mom's a teacher. So a lot of my time, after school was with my grandparents, and time with them in the range, time with them on the course, time with them on the weekend. It was growing up in Hilo. It's a little different, with you're involved in a lot of sports when you're a kid. And so my time was split between, 3 or 4 sports growing up. And but I always came back to golf, and it became a family sport, so it was something that we all did. We all could do on our time. So, it was something I stuck with, going forward rather than the other sports.
Right. And you talk about Hilo, and there's a lot of pride coming not just from the state, but also for you being from Hilo. What kind of pride, what does it mean to you to coach a team here at the university and being born and raised in the islands?
It's huge. Looking back, when I was finishing, I started my college career on the mainland, playing in the mainland, and then I came home, and after I finished up at UH, never really thought about the coaching aspect, never really thought about, I always thought I was going to play, I was going to keep playing, when the opportunity came up for me to first help, be an assistant coach under the prior coach, and then, when he abruptly resigned, and it became an opportunity for me to kind of run the program myself, it kind of switched my thinking a little bit as far as career path, as far as, what I was going to hopefully do for a long, long time, and like you said, born and raised here in Hawaii, University of Hawai'i, we're not the only golf program in Hawaii as far as college-wise goes, but, we're the only Division I program. We're the marquee program as far as publicity-wise, as far as, exposure-wise for the state on the college level. And, just representing not only my family, but, the state, I carried it over into my coaching, and I stress that to my players a lot, that there's a huge responsibility being part of this program. And, I really hope, and I really stress to them, all the time that you represent much more than yourself when it comes to this program. And I think that's one aspect of what I like to, give to our players year after year after year.
4 years at Hilo High, you're part of the golf program. What are you most proud of, and why? Is it receiving all-state honors twice, and we won't go into which years you were in high school playing golf, or are you more proud of winning 2 straight BIIF team championships?
The team championships are big. Going to Hilo High, us and Waikea, we battled every year. There were some other schools that had some individual players who were very, very good, when I was in high school, but being able to accomplish the fact that you're the best team on the island, I stress the team part, I think that was big. Moving to the state tournament, a lot of that stuff turned to an individual accolades, because when you start battling with the best teams in the state, it's a little bit more difficult. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that I was able to be successful, both at the island and the state level. But I really take pride in those years that we did good, BIF wise, and we're able to bring home a couple of titles there.
Proud graduate of Hilo High, you go on to Oregon. Now you come back to UH, and you have a pretty cool distinction here because at the age of 23, you were hired to take over the program. What do you think was it? Was it someone being given, you were so young at the time, what did it mean to you to be given the reins as a head coach and be so young at the same time?
Well, you know what? It was scary, to be honest with you. I kind of felt I was ready, but until you're given those responsibilities, it becomes on you. Because you're no longer a player. You have much more responsibility. You have responsibility of your players rather than just being yourself and your teammates. So, it was an eye-opening experience for me. A lot of things that I had to go through my first 2 years, actually, with everything from having to rent a car when you're not supposed to be renting a car, making hotel reservations, having to put my own credit card out there for hotel reservations for the team, and be responsible financially wise. I think the main thing and what made it a lot easier for me, some people might think it might be hard, but, having guys on the roster that were my teammates the year before, really did kind of make the transition a little bit more smooth. Your responsibilities change because they become your responsibility, and I was very, very lucky that those guys were embracing of the fact that I made that transition to the coaching aspect. We were able to do some decent things, even though I was young, new. I give a lot of credit to a lot of my colleagues as far as coaches wise goes, many of who have retired already, because they took me under their wing, going on the road the first time, my first year was just, I was in shock. You don't really know. As a player, you just go out there and play. You prepare to play and you play. But, as a coach, you got the other responsibilities that you just didn't see before that. And, I got thrown into the fire kind of quickly and forced me to learn on the fly quickly. And I was lucky enough that I was able to do that. And, like you said, 23 years later, going to 24 years now, I've become the mentor, I think, to a lot of other younger coaches, which I kind of like. I kind of embrace that because I see these young guys who come in who want to coach, and I'm more than happy, more than willing to offer up advice to them and help them along their journey too.
And at the university, you're the third most tenured of the coaches behind Andy Johnson and also Bob Coolin. We're talking sailing and softball respectively. Do you feel like you have one of the best jobs, not just on the island, but in the whole world?
I do. To be able to coach a sport that you grew up playing and you love, and to pass on knowledge to the next generation of players year after year after year. It is something that, it's an experience that I can't, ask for anything more. I think golf, for the most part, is still considered a recreational sport, and it's a sport that, funny that a lot of guys who maybe thought golf wasn't the cool thing to do, when they were growing up, whatever it may be, are now playing golf because that's what everybody does, So in my mind, I kind of look at it that way. I try to keep it as fun as possible for the guys. I try to keep it, as loose as possible, but in the same token, really instill what I feel are good values or good things as far as the game of golf, to our players, and hopefully that they pick that up every year and take that on even after they're done playing with me.
Golf is one of the rare sports because it's not only an individual sport, but it's also a team one as well. When you go out and look for players to recruit, what are you looking for?
Well, talent's the number one. That's got to be the number one. You know, and your ability to score. You know, but outside of that, you know, you really recruit for personality, and you recruit for fit for your program. You know, we're not in a situation where we carry, you know, even the basketball has 15 or the football or baseball has 30 and football has 100. You know, you're a small knit group, you know, when it comes to the golf program. You know, we're 8, 9, 10 guys a year at the most. You're around each other, you know, 5, 6 days a week, you know, 4 to 5 to 6 hours at a time. You know, and so you really gotta, you know, when in the recruiting process, you really gotta look at not only their talent and how their play will help you be a better program, but also, you know, their personality and are they going to be a fit for not only the team but Hawaii. That's the one thing that I learned a long time ago in my early years, that if you don't find players who understand Hawaii, understand the culture of Hawaii, or willing to adapt and learn the culture of Hawaii, it makes it very difficult. Those players don't last. You know, I tell my guys all the time in the recruiting process, I said, you don't come to Hawaii to expect Hawaii to change for you, right? You come to Hawaii to change, to be part of Hawaii. And the guys who pick that up and learn that quickly are the ones who become very successful. Even, you know, not just, you know, a lot of my recruiting obviously is local and a lot of my recruiting is Hawaii ties, you know, but my international kids, you know, my kids from the mainland who come in, you know, they understand before they even sign that letter of intent that that's the intention, you know, for you when you come here. And like you said, the team aspect, everybody wants to do good individually because that's usually where your accolades come from. But to be able to develop a full team of guys who work together and are successful together, you know, that's the real, I think, difficulty in our line of work as college golf coaches. And the ones who are successful at it, you know, really put out good kids from their program and graduate good kids from their program. Not necessarily the guys who are going to be the Jordan Spieths or the Ricky Fowlers or the Tiger Woods, but, you know, guys who will graduate, be productive in the community, you know, and look back and say, you know, I've learned a lot at the University of Hawaii and I can carry on what I've learned to other aspects of my life.
2020 has been different, and that's just putting it out there mildly. Now, your team was one of the few for the university that was actually on the mainland getting ready for a tournament when you folks found out that not only was the tournament canceled, but the season was canceled as well. What was the feeling like when you had to tell your team, the season's over, guys, and we can't play anymore?
You know, it was rough. You know, I had my 2 seniors for the roster last year were on the road with us. The rumblings were starting before we even got on that plane. You know, a lot of it had to do with the basketball tournaments that were getting canceled. But, you know, we're out there. And the funny thing was we didn't even get to compete that first round at Grand Canyon. You know, we're in our practice round. And the decision to cancel the tournament really came from Grand Canyon and their decision not to play. There are a number of schools that were there. I think there are 15 schools that were there. Over half of them were being called back to their campuses that morning. You know, so half the teams weren't even at the golf course. Just the coaches showed up. They didn't know what was going on. But it really didn't. I think it really didn't hit everybody, especially our seniors, till that night. You know, and try to make it as much as I could a best memorable last tournament experience for the 2 seniors. You know, we still went out to play our practice round. We had a little mini competition. You know, I swung the club a little bit. Not gonna lie, I beat 3 of them. So, you know, it was one of those things. You know, and then that night, you know, we kind of kept it going. We ended up going to Top Golf. You know, had a good evening at Top Golf. You know, kind of that way. And then when we got home, you know, everything kind of set in. You know, I got the rest of the team together in the room. You know, the decision was made that we weren't going to play the rest of the year within 2 days after we got back. You know, so it kind of took everybody by surprise. But also the fact that, you know, over half the team wasn't from Hawaii. isn't from Hawaii, and the issues that came up after that, with having to get back home before some quarantine lockdown went in, especially for my foreign guys, and all the aspects of getting it moved out. So it was really, kind of ongoing for a week. So I don't really think, the full realization kind of kicked in until midway through the pandemic, when, it was the end of the year. We're not having our end of the year dinner. We're not recognizing face to face, our seniors. And then, and it was hard. It was hard, I think. I'm happy because one of my seniors had graduated on time, and he's applying to med school now. The other one graduates this December. So academically, they, all of our guys, did their jobs that they were supposed to do, and really took care of their business in the classroom. And we've been able to move forward academically, which that was a whole nother story, going online. Never did before, and new for that too. So, but, it is what it is. Like I always tell our guys, it is what it is. We roll with the punches. We don't know what tomorrow holds. Let's just take care of today and make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. And then for this year's guys, hey, just get ready. If we get called to play, we're going to play, so just be ready and do everything I ask from a distance, because that's basically what it is. Yeah.
Couple more here, Coach, as we're about ready to wrap up. If you could pick any three people to play a round of golf with you, who would you pick?
Wow. Tiger would be one. The funny thing is that growing up junior golf wise, I was able to play with him in the same group a few times. The first time I was 9, he was 7 at World Championships in San Diego. Everybody knew who he was, but nobody really knew Tiger Woods as Tiger Woods now. And seeing the progression of him all the way through to where he is now, that'd probably be one. Jack Nicklaus would be another one. I mean, it's a guy I watched all the time, growing up, and emulated his style of play a lot. And he'd probably be another one. And, it's kind of sentimental, but to be honest with you, if my grandpa was still alive, it would be my grandpa. I mean, he the one started me on this whole thing. He's the one started me on this journey. And he's the one that gave me my first clubs. He's the one that took me out first time, hit balls at Wakiauka Park up there in the baseball field, to kind of start me out, so I think those three. I mean, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to kind of get that group together and play around. It'd probably be memorable.
Was it a little different seeing the Masters in November as opposed to April?
Time-wise, yeah. And then probably more different not seeing people there, and not seeing the crowd, because I mean, that's golf now. That's golf now. I'm happy that they're playing. That's the one thing, but it's not seeing the crowd, and it's a different kind of excitement. When the crowd's there and the people are screaming and yelling, and and the players get, I think, more pumped up. But I was happy to see it happen. I'm happy to see that all the majors were going to happen this year. I think, for the Masters itself, I think they had to adjust, and they had to make a lot of, decisions as far as how they were going to handle the tournament this year. But again, I'm just happy golf is back. Golf is being able to play. I'm hoping that the NCAA and our Big West Conference sees that golf has been one of the most safer sports that have come back, and they allow us to play this spring. That decision hasn't been made yet, but I think our guys are raring to go, and I think I'm raring to go. I'm ready to get off of the couch and do this Zoom stuff with them, and all this mobile, this and that, and just get on the golf course and start to play.
What you just talked about Zoom, but there's also been something that you've been a part of that with Bo's Kitchen, and that really kind of came to the forefront through the website throughout the spring into the summer, and you were a very big feature on this. And we talked about a pasta dish, we talked about Korean fried chicken, Japanese curry. short rib loco moco, chicken katsu. If you're asked to do this again, Coach, what's your next dish to make?
That's funny because there's so many things that we've done while we've been in lockdown at home. But cooking has been something I've done all my life. I mean, I take after my parents. We've always done, we've always done home dinners home. We've always done family stuff for our house. My parents are, my dad and my mom are really involved in UH Hilo, and they've always done big events for them as well, cooking wise too. So I just love it. It's something that, when Dark brought it up, I said, yeah, let's try it and see. I didn't realize it was going to be so easy for me to kind of do these videos. I get the family involved, they got a videotape for me. But, the dishes for me can be anything. I'll be completely honest with you that it can be anything. But I will always go back to my Japanese because I like to cook Japanese food. Because I posted pictures of, my chanko nabe and things like that. I'll probably do something like that, because I like to do things that are easy for people to do. And that's the one thing. I didn't want to do anything on the show that, people be like, that's too hard. Let's not do it, So keep it simple. That's the kind of cooking I like. That's the kind of cooking I do for the family. Keep it simple, keep it quick, keep it good, tasting wise. Funny thing on that, I got emails randomly from people, asking, because on the show, we don't really post the recipes or anything like that. I had a couple professors email me, hey, can you give me the recipe for this? And, so it was kind of fun, and it's fun. And, if we do end up going back to something like that, I told Derek I'm more than willing to spread some cooking knowledge as well, if if you want to say, and go from there too. So, but yeah, I thought what started out as something that I don't know if I want to do this turned into something like Derek's asking me almost every other week, like, you got to put up something, you got to put up something, you got to put up something. So I said, Derek, spread the wealth here. Let's ask some other coaches, if they want to do some things here. It's like, oh, okay, but it was fun. It was fun, and maybe we'll go back to it sometime down the line.
Coach, I'm telling you, we could do this all day. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for the time you've given us today. We really appreciate it.
Tiff, thank you. It was a pleasure being on.
We need to take a break here. We need to take a break right here. When we come back, we'll be joined by the other golf coach for UH, Stephen Bidne from the Rainbow Wahine. For Coach Miyashiro, I'm Tiff Wells. You're listening to ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. Welcome back to ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. I'm your host, Tiff Wells. Now I'm joined by the other golf coach here at the University of Hawaii. He's in year 4 as the head coach for the Rainbow Wahine golf team, Coach Stephen Bidne. Coach, welcome to Talk Story.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tiff. Thanks for having me on. I always appreciate ESPN's support of our program and UH.
Of course. Now, first off, what or whom got you into the game of golf?
Yeah, funny story. Nobody in my family plays golf at all. So it was actually my next door neighbors. They have kids relatively the same age, and invited me to tag along at the local country club their members at, and just kind of went out there and tried my hand at it. I grew up in Minnesota, and so I was a big hockey player growing up. And so got into golf late compared to most players. I didn't get into golf until I was in middle school. And so, and then after that, after I kind of went out for a few times, kind of got hooked, got that golf bug, and got a swing coach who was the former University of Minnesota head coach, and took me from basically shooting in the 90s and 100s to winning conference my sophomore year, and it kind of escalated from there, and now here I am. So, but kind of funny how nobody in my family has ever played golf before.
Was it tough picking up a game where it snowed in a state quite often? Did you ever lose a golf ball on the course? I mean, the ball's white. The course, if it's snowing, could be white as well.
Yeah. The golf season in Minnesota is pretty short. I mean, it's usually from mid-late April to about Halloween, if that. So perfect multi-sport athletes, come out of Minnesota because, you can play golf in the summer and then play basketball or hockey in the winter. So definitely had my hand at the indoor facilities and putting on AstroTurf and stuff like that, but kind of make do with it. And I think it, just kind of like in the recruiting realm, I'm looking at well-rounded athletes and not just maybe sport-specific ones. And so I think it helped me become a better athlete and better golfer overall, having kind of a little bit of break to kind of reset and focus on some other things and then get back after it in the spring. So.
You mentioned your home state of Minnesota, and you talk about hockey. It's we can't even say big. It's almost like you're born into the sport. Now, who's your team in the NHL?
Yeah, well, Minnesota, I'm kind of diehard all Minnesota sports. So unfortunately, that's the case. So the Twins, they kind of help us out every now and then. And then, it's always a sad story in postseason. And same thing with the Vikings. They've had a couple runs. But so Minnesota Wild fan. And so growing up, it was the North Stars. And then they left. And then we didn't have a team for a while. And then they came back with the Minnesota Wild. So big Minnesota Wild fan. My brother used to have season tickets. And so still try and go to the games whenever I'm back and whenever they're around.
What did you think of the NHL bubble for their restart and then for the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good idea. I mean, I see a lot of sports are doing that, and especially it's just tough when you have that many athletes on teams and combined with trainers and head coaches and I mean, just the whole support staff. I mean, they can go off into their families and kind of go outside the bubble, and so before if they didn't have the bubble and so things could get, interesting to where, they probably would have to shut down because it could escalate from there. So I think it was really smart on their part to kind of isolate it and put everybody in a bubble. And it fared well. So it's been cool to see, sports resume. You got football now, you have basketball and of course hockey. So it's really cool to see that. And now we're hoping for golf in the spring.
What led you to picking Northern Colorado as your college place to go and play golf?
Yeah, good question. Well, I was a little late bloomer, but I had a couple options coming out of high school, and it really was my swing coach, who's John Means, former University of Minnesota golf coach, Hall of Fame in the college coaching area, and he was really good friends with Wally Goodwin and at Northern Colorado. And Wally Goodwin is probably one of the more famous college coaches. He was the one who recruited Tiger Woods, coached at Stanford, retired from Stanford in college coaching, and then Northern Colorado, where that was his alma mater, came knocking and asked for him to help him transition from D2 to D1. And so just that relationship with my swing coach and Wally Goodwin and just the opportunity they gave me, it was great. And really, I wanted to go to a place that I could start right away. I see that far too often in the recruiting stage where you see some kids, they go after the logo because it's a big program, but they might not start right away. And so my goal right away was to, I didn't want to sit on the bench at a bigger opportunity that I could have had. I wanted to be a starter. And so I chose a smaller Division I school, but I jumped in right away as the number 2 player. So had a lot of success, and especially my goal was playing professionally, which I did for a little bit. And in order to get better, you have to see competition. And so that's why a big chunk was the relationship with the coach, but then just the opportunity of getting able to go out to Colorado.
And talk about playing at that next level. I mean, you played on the PGA Tour in Canada for a couple of years. Just how good is the golf at that level?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I always tell people go to the driving range and you see really how good they are because they don't never miss. Yeah, even when I go to the Sony here in Hawaii, I love going to the driving range, seeing how they practice. But they are, I mean, they're extremely good. And it's golf at another level. And in college, I had a lot of success, had a lot of top 10s, had a couple wins. But you never really had to go too deep. You shoot 68, 69. I mean, you're probably going to be winning a tournament. If you shoot even par in a professional event, you're probably on the verge of missing the cut. So you have to learn. I really had to escalate my game and become a little bit more aggressive and have to be forced to shoot 64s, 63s, which I wasn't really comfortable with doing in the college game. So it really escalated, but it really shows you how good those guys truly are. And, when you see Tiger and his resume, I mean, I can't even imagine how good that guy is. I mean, obviously I know, but yeah, they're so good. And my assistant coach, Scott Simpson, I mean, he 27 years on PGA Tour and just watching that guy golf, I think I've played with them 20 times. I don't think I've seen him miss a fairway yet. So he's still got the game. And but yeah, when they say these guys are good on tour, they're really telling the truth.
And to have, like you just mentioned, having Scott Simpson on your staff, what is it like? I'm sure the discussions, at the dinner table or on in flights or in bus routes to various courses on road trips, those have to be some interesting conversations. What's it like to have a former pro now as your volunteer assistant?
Yeah, I mean, it's just his experience. I mean, his resume is second to none, and he just has so many cool stories. We just love picking his brain and talking about his experiences coming down with the lead or his experience at Augusta, and he always tells us a story of when he won his first tournament, he went back to his home course and he saw little Phil Mickelson come up and praise him on the win, and now look at Phil. So it's just really cool seeing those experiences. But then, just tying it in with our players too, and helping with different areas of their game and talking more course management and the mental game. And I mean, he's such a great swing coach, and he meshes with our team culture. We're all about positivity and energy, and he's such a cool, laid back guy. And so we're pretty blessed to have a U.S. Open champion as our on our coaching staff, because I think we're probably one of the only ones out there. So.
When you go out and you recruit, golf is a little bit different than most collegiate sports where it's not only an individual game, but it's also a team one as well. What type of player are you looking for?
Good question. Obviously golf is a numbers game. So really looking at numbers, but I also look at potential as well. But then also, we're looking at how good are they with their academics, part of the student athlete aspect, but then also personality wise, are they going to mesh with our team culture that we're building here and that we've done a good job with, and just a wide variety of things. There's a lot of X factors, as I call them. And so I like to go watch them on the course, and I'm one of those coaches, actually. I kind of hang out in the trees a little bit, see what they're like without coaches around, if they're slamming their clubs, or kind of how their attitude is, or how they're presenting themselves to their competitors. But then also I like to see what they do during adversity. I want to kind of see them hit a bad shot and see how they react, and what do they do if they hit it in the water. And so kind of a bunch of X factors, but obviously academics in my book comes first, and then on top of that, we like to see some good scores. And I think the recruits that we have, combined with the players we have and the ones that we just signed, I think there's something special brewing here in Manoa, as I say.
2020 has been some type of year, and you guys had just finished the Dr. Donis Thompson Invitational over at Clipper in Kaneohe, March 11th, and you guys are one of the last UH teams to have competed in a spring sport. When you found out that the rest of the season was canceled, how did your team take it? How did you tell them that the season was done?
Yeah, I think, like you said, we're probably one of the last ones to play, because, as the final round we completed the final round, Yale was playing in our tournament, and the head coach was saying, hey, this is our last event. They just shut down the Ivy League. And so us coaches were kind of looking around, and we kind of were thinking maybe it's going to be the domino effect, which it ended up being. And so our players even knew that, like, wow, Yale's gone. And so I think everybody kind of knew it could go that route. But we're planning on, that next week going to go defend our title out at the Bay Course out in Maui, and where we last played 2 years ago. But obviously didn't get that chance. So I know it was a little tough for the team. We spoke together, and but they all understood. It was just tough to see the two seniors kind of go out not on their terms, and because I know they really wanted to play our last two events, including conference and hopefully postseason. But that's just the dice that was given. But we're taking things day and day, and we've the girls have been playing or having practice this fall, and we've had a couple team practices finally. But I know they're itching, just like Scott and I are, to get out there in the spring.
How did you stay mentally focused, but more so keep your game in check when for a point in time there was all the golf courses were closed? How did you stay mentally focused during this ongoing pandemic?
Yeah, so when the players came back, we do weekly Zoom meetings, call them Team Tuesdays, and we've really dove in deep to a bunch of areas that maybe kind of get overlooked in the golf side of things, and really mastering the knowledge of the rules of golf, because there was a bunch of new rules that were issued just a couple years ago. Really dove in deep on the mental side, kind of breathing techniques, and just some different things that are really essential to playing elite golf. But maybe sometimes gets a little overlooked. So we really focused in on that. And then we did a team book read, reading The Energy Bus and A Positive Team by John Gordon. So as I said, we're all about positive energy. And so we just had really good discussions. And I really, and they even said that they really appreciated that. It just kind of kept their, their minds focused and on a positive note. And so we were kind of doing that until the golf courses did open, and then they had the opportunity to do voluntary practices, and then as of early November until just this summer. But we've been trying to keep it as fresh and upbeat as possible.
Both you and Ron have had tournaments off island, whether it's been on Kauai, Maui, the Big Island. What goes into hosting a tournament off island?
Yeah, a lot of work on the admin side but yeah, so we host quite a few. Like you said, I think Ron, we host the same number, but it's a lot of, once it's kind of like a cookie cutter. Once you get one event and everything planned, you kind of use the same scenario. But the biggest thing is getting the teams to come. Everybody wants to come to Hawaii, so that's not the biggest problem, but just a lot of logistics sides. There's a lot more to it than maybe one would think, but we have a great support staff here at UH, and we have great golf courses, wonderful golf courses with their staff that always love having our programs out there and our tournaments out there. And so that's very beneficial for us and very appreciative, so that we can continue to have some of our home events, because I truly think we have some of the best home tournaments in the country, with hosting some like the Donis Thompson. It's been at the Clipper for over 30 some years, and we host our Rainbow Wahine Invitation out at Kapolei, and then we host our Nui Nui Spring Break Classic out at Kapolei Bay Course. So have a wide variety, and always teams are itching to come back. And so it's really cool to get some of the top programs and programs from all around the country that maybe we won't see, that aren't necessarily on the West Coast, and we get to compete against them. But definitely a little extra work for myself and our support staff here.
Attending a tournament or playing around at a course, what are a couple of those bucket list items for you?
Yeah, I think playing Pebble Beach would be. I've been to Pebble Beach quite a few times, but I've actually never played it. And it's funny talking to Scott. That was one of his home golf courses. He played it all the time, or they had the California State Amateur there, so he's played it combined with on the professional level numerous times. But Pebble Beach, man, I was recruiting on Scotland a couple falls ago, and made it to St. Andrews. So I got to see St. Andrews, but didn't play. But I think it'd be really cool to be out there, and just some of the really popular places that kind of are the footprint of golf, I think would be pretty cool. So I've been to a couple of the PGA Tour locations, and growing up here in Minnesota, they always had they had PGA Championship and the Ryder Cup at Hazeltine, and so got to play Minnesota State Amateur there once, and played it a couple times. So, and got to attend it as well when they were there for the PGAs. And golf, it's such a cool, I'm so fortunate to have this opportunity being the head coach here, and because golf it's brought me as a student athlete and as a coach and playing professionally all around the world, and some places I never would have been. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity and of having this, and wouldn't wish it any other way.
What did you think of the Masters being held in November?
Definitely interesting. Yeah, I was on the show with Bobby, and he was talking to me about it, and just watching it too, it looked like it was playing a little differently, and obviously Dustin did pretty darn well there. But yeah, I think the unique part about it is how it's going to feel really weird when April rolls around and there's another one. So usually you're waiting for a while, but to have two Masters within 6 months of each other is going to be, it's really cool for the fans. So but yeah, definitely a little different. But I think it's always fun to watch the majors, and especially to see the top compete. And so we'll see how Tiger does this next year around.
Your counterpart on the men's side, Coach Ronn Miyashiro, has been cooking up a storm. with Bo's Kitchen, and we can't forget that you took a part in it as well. Tell us about the dish that you cooked, because it has some significance to your home state of Minnesota.
Yeah. So, it was kind of fun. Ron's definitely got me, beat in the kitchen. So I mean, he's quite the chef. But yeah, so I did a dish that's home to me. It seems extremely easy, which is perfect for me. But it's something around here in Minnesota that you would walk around, and there's a couple restaurants that are known for those burgers, and it's fun to kind of represent the state that we're from and bring a little Minnesota flair to the 808.
We all know that UH teams travel a lot, and you're on an airplane for the majority of the season going to tournaments, whether it's off island or out of state. What are a couple of the must-have items in your carry-on bag?
Yeah, good question. It's crazy when we leave for just maybe 3-4 days. It looks like we're heading out for a month with all the bags that we have, because we fly with our golf bags, and everyone on our team, especially if we're going to a 36-hole event, we travel with pull carts as well. But especially in the coaching bag, I always travel with plenty of hand warmers, especially if we're going to a place that's a little chilly. Just a bunch of rain gear equipment, and our yardage books that we carry, our green reading books, and just some old notes from the years past. So I have yardage books, probably have over 100 of them from different golf courses. So I'm making sure that we're bringing those, and but a lot of it's just extra towels and stuff like that, and just in case adverse weather happens. It seems like the golf gods always bring something special every time there's a college golf tournament, whether it's wind, rain, or something. So we always try and be prepared. But I always tell the players, we have to be be a good baseball player and be good at hitting curveballs. So just like if something's brought up on the golf course, we're usually good at hitting those.
Finally, Coach, last one here. If you're going to the course by yourself, are you going to the driving range, or are you going to the chip putt green?
Yeah. If my players were here, I would kind of quiz them and see what they would say, and see if they would answer it my way. And definitely the chipping and putting green is where I would go. That's where I grew up, especially when I was playing and learning the game. My parents would drop me off at the course and drop me off in the morning, pick me up in the evening, and I'd always be waiting for the ride, and I'd just be chipping and putting, or going to the wedge green. And I truly think that's how players can really shave off strokes, even if you're a 30 handicapper or a scratch golfer. It's really the chip in putting. And so especially for our team, we really focus on 100 yards and in. Big believer in if you dominate the short game and your wedges, you're gonna score well, even if you're not hitting the driver well. So big fan of chip in putting. Wedges and putter are my favorite clubs in the bag, and so hopefully my team would answer the same way. But if I had to choose, I would definitely spend some time there.
There's another head coach at the UH that is big on golf, not just going to the course, but also using terms and analogies. And I'm speaking of men's volleyball coach Charlie Wade, who links his team's serving abilities and the types of serves and how fast one's serving to different types of clubs in a golf bag. When you hear other sports using golf terms, golf analogies for their sport, you get kind of happy? Do you get like a little giggle when you hear this?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, especially when we're all in our offices. I mean, there's actually a lot of golfers who are coaches here at UH. I know the tennis coaches are huge golfers. I think they play twice as much than they're at the golf course and play more than I do. But no, it's pretty cool to see that. I mean, we kind of do similar things. Golf is very similar to in similar ways to tennis and baseball, and so it's pretty cool to where I think that's what is good about a coach, is he's able to use different analogies and tie in, because maybe a player will get that analogy versus if he's just using the same volleyball terminology, or us using the same golf terminology. If we tie it into a different sport, sometimes it's easier for the player to connect them. But I've heard he's been on the golf course a few times, so I'll have to bring him and Ron out sometime.
Coach, this has been so much fun. We really appreciate the time you've given us today. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Tiff. Thanks so much, and take care. Aloha.
For Coach Bidne, for Coach Miyashiro, as well as the rest of us here at ESPN Honolulu, I'm Tiff Wells saying thank you for joining us here on the 13th edition of ESPN Honolulu Fan Friday Talk Story. Until next time, wear that mask, stay safe, and be socially distant.